only secular opportunity that we have as humans to figure this out is going to be Bitcoin. It was the only way out. I'm going to put my time and energy into this then, because I'm not, it doesn't make sense putting my time and energy into these other things that aren't making a difference. I'm putting a line in the sand. I'm grabbing my musket. I'm not going any further. Like, I'm done. Literally at the top of the pyramid is good versus evil, fighting 24/7 all day long, 365. Bitcoin will continue because what's the only thing that's equal to your finite time and energy? Finite Bitcoin.
If you had to go back in time and give yourself advice, other than buying Bitcoin, what would you tell yourself?
That's a great question.
Welcome to the Bitcoin RX podcast. This is your host, Nurse Ralph. Today, I got Brendan from the Playable Characters Show, who's going to help me give you a weekly dose of orange pill so you don't die from fiat disease. Brendan, welcome to the podcast.
Ralph, great to see you. I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor. And I'm glad we were able to put it together. So thank you.
Of course, man. I've been watching your show for a while now. I love everything you're doing, man. This is it's amazing. I've learned a lot from your podcast too. It's great, man.
Good.
Oh yeah. I wanted to talk about your background because you have I was doing some research on you. You have quite an impressive background, man. Going from like professional hockey player to now basically a full-time Bitcoin advocate. So like, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey before Bitcoin.
So my journey, I played hockey my entire life from Michigan, and obviously, it gets fairly cold here. And I played hockey my whole life, played for the U.S. national team, under 17 team, and under 18 team, and my junior and senior of high school. And I was very political growing up. And my dad was, libertarian, conservative. He was, didn't have a party necessarily, right? I mean, it was just kind of one of those where like he loved the founding fathers, history buff, military buff, and that's how I grew up. Playing flight sim games growing up, playing helicopter games and just all kinds of different flight sims. So like that's what we grew up in the 90s doing. And I always wanted to be a Navy SEAL or a fighter pilot, and I was good at hockey, and that was like the main sport I played, and played some other sports growing up, but I ended up going to the U.S. team. That was like my dream. I wanted to play for the United States so bad. And then I never really reset my goals after that. And I ironically started getting hurt at that time too, when I was leaving the U.S. program, and we played in the World Under 18 Championships in Czech Republic, and we beat Canada and won. It was amazing, and I was hurt at the time, and so you start doing thinking at that point as an athlete when you have serious injuries of hey, what am I going to do with my life? And as an 18-year-old too, I was always thinking further ahead because I was, again, very political, stuff like that. But a couple years after that, obviously the great financial crisis happens. This is when I'm at Michigan State University.
What year was that actually?
I'm playing and this was so I played Michigan State from 2005 to 2009. So I was leaving school right when the great financial crisis was really, the whole thing was setting in 2007 to 2009, and we won the national championship in 2007, which is amazing. I had a very fun hockey career, very amazing. It took me all over the world, and very, very grateful and blessed for that. But it was crazy watching what was happening politically, watching what was happening financially, and it woke me up to, holy cow, there is a game being played on all of us. And it led me to, I think it was 2009 or 2010, I was in the grocery store and heard I was in the book section, of course, so I don't know why I would be in the grocery store, probably, and I was like a little whisper, it was Donald Trump's book with Robert Kiyosaki, Why We Want You to Be Rich. So I pick it up and it's like $3 in the bargain bin. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is great. And sure, why not? Like I know Donald Trump, didn't know who Robert Kiyosaki was, and it just blew my mind open. And it was one of the greatest books I've ever read. And it was so simple and about your money makes money for you. Using intelligent leverage, the different the cash flow quadrant, the different employees, small business owners, investors, big business, stuff like that. And so it just blew my mind open. And I got angry too. I was like very hopeful because I'm like, this is what I've been looking for in my entire life. But then I was also simultaneously angry because people like, why didn't someone tell me this? Like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Argue with teachers, why didn't, where are we going to learn about money, arguing about politics. And so you're seeing this game being played, and what happened, you realize during that crash that, it's not red versus blue, it's the state versus you. And that's when it really woke me up. And then seeing their book at that same time, it led me down to reading Finding Mike Maloney, which he wrote the Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver in the mid to late 2000s. And then I was reading Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin's book, and then just led me down monetary history and those, which fit perfectly with my political and historical background as a kid growing up. And so you're seeing all this play out, and I'm playing hockey still, and you have a lot of time in your hands when you're in college to a degree, but especially in the minors, from like 2009 to 2012, I played 3 years in the minors, and basically single A, double A, and triple A, and was still getting hurt a little bit. My head was getting hurt, but I'm doing a lot of studying and reading and just watching, and I'm just blown away at, again, why weren't we told these things? What money really was, understanding that money was gold and silver for thousands of years, and then all these dollars and paper notes were claim checks, IOUs, on the real money itself. And so that right there should make anyone pause and be like, well, what do you mean they're IOUs, right? And so you start questioning. And again, that's where the average person stops, even if they get that far. Unfortunately, I don't know why that is. And so that's what I'm into studying nowadays to a large extent, which is, we can talk about it later, but just human psychology and like why humans, rationalize and why they tend to do these things where they don't keep digging. They don't keep trying to find the answer and get the truth, right? Divine law, natural law, first principle thinking, all this stuff, right? So we'll talk about it. We'll shelve that for now. But so I'm reading this, I'm seeing it, and I retired from hockey at that point in 2012, and I started a real estate team and get into real estate and try to help people buy and sell. Like I knew I wanted to get into real estate. It was always kind of something on my mind actually. And I was in pre-law, a couple different things in school. I was in real estate actually in school. Then I moved to political science. Then I moved to finally like pre-law, and economics is what I graduated in. And so all those fields are what I basically do now, and then what I've done for the last 15 years in some way, shape, or form. And that's why I had a real estate team, and ended up buying rental properties and trying, raise money, buy these things, which, is great. Like you get an infinite return because you use other people's money, and then you refinance it, rehab the property, return everyone's money. And it was great. It was, really good. But then you start realizing over those 10 years, like, wow, the average person can't do this. Like I've been talking to people about this, and there's a couple of people that are trying to do it, but the average person doesn't have the time, experience, resources to do any of this. It took me 5-10 years of studying and trial and error and doing these things to really get going. And then Bitcoin came along about 2015, 2016, 17, somewhere in there. And I saw it for the first time or two, and it's just like, okay, like that's great. I like things I can hold, it was just kind of that. It wasn't presented to me in the right way, unfortunately, right? Like everyone has their story of hearing Bitcoin. And so I didn't grok it right away. And then the 2017 run up really caught my eye. And then I started really buying it in 2018 when it came down. Just as an investor, I was like, okay, buy low, sell high. I'll wait till it comes down. Naively, Bitcoin could never come down theoretically, right? So fortunately it did. And then I started buying, and that was my in. And so that led me to the next couple of years of just studying it like crazy. Because again, it's a big thing, like just getting a little bit of Bitcoin, getting a little bit of anything, because then you're then incentivized to learn it, right? So, started buying, and then I was incentivized to learn it. So over the next 2 years, I started learning a ton. And as I'm doing that, my real estate team was growing. So I had more time to spend studying these things even more. And so then 2020 hit, and that's when I realized, holy cow, all the things for 20 years of my life, really since 2000 in essence, as an 8th grader, when I was in 2000, it was like all these things I've read forever, they're going to come true. Like even in America, all the things you read in the history books of societal collapse, disorder, chaos, disarray, and these things happen in fits and starts. But you realize that, wow, like our government's not immune here in America. We're just humans as well, and we will still fall into the same traps and do the same things to each other that you saw all around the world for thousands of years. So that's where I had some shit coins at the time, because I think Coinbase was one of the, there was a couple places maybe you could buy in 2017. And so it was like, as an investor, I was like, I got fortunately mainly Bitcoin, and then I'd get little tiny position sizes of like the other 20 coins or whatever it was, just as an investor mindset. And then 2020 happened, and I quickly just converted all my I didn't have too much in the other cryptos, but like I converted them all to Bitcoin, and I realized like, oh yeah, like this isn't a game. Like you need the uncensorable, immutable truth. And it like everything kind of clicked for me at that point. The Max Kaiser talks, the Robert Kiyosaki talks for years, like the fundamental macro stuff, and then the Max Kaiser stuff about holding your wealth in your head, and like all these things just kind of came together like a puzzle piece in my mind, and just kind of clicked of like, holy cow, like this truly is the thing that it can't be taken away, it can't be censored, nothing can happen to it unless we do it to ourselves, I guess theoretically. And this is the thing that can really, again, why would you keep going the same direction when you know it's the wrong way. Like, again, the government themselves says bankrupt, Social Security, bankrupted, Medicare, all these things are bankrupt the next 10, 15 years or whatever, right? So why would you keep going that way and just expecting someone else to like figure it out? Like, we're going to, so to me, like the couple percent of people in society that we need to get to are the people that will say, hey, I'm putting a line in the sand. I'm grabbing my musket. I'm not going any further. Like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And that's the couple percent of people that I believe that we're looking for to say, I'm not doing this. I'm dragging the other 97% across the finish line. So long story long, 2020, I couldn't do all that. I convert everything. And then my real estate team, I've got a handful of agents and people helping me and different workers. And I fire myself in essence, and then by proxy I have to fire everyone else in essence, or like let everyone go and say, hey, like you can still do real estate or do other things, but I'm not here anymore. And I knew then at that time that, and we had a handful of children at the time that were just being born, and so I knew that I had to be in the Bitcoin space because it was the only answer. It was the only way out. But aside from Christ coming down, the second coming, and just being like, okay, I'm taking you all up with me. Time on earth is done. Other than that, the only secular opportunity that we have as humans to figure this out is going to be Bitcoin. And so, and so that was like, okay, I'm going to put my time and energy into this then, because it doesn't make sense putting my time and energy into these other things that aren't making a difference. They might make a difference in my life, right? Like here and there, like it might help me a little bit doing real estate, or, some of my tenants, my residents might have a better home to live in, but how can I impact 8 billion people? And that's kind of how my mind always worked. And the wealth gap was something that I never really thought about, because as we're taught in capitalism in a way, like that all gets figured out, which I do believe in a true free market, that it does get figured out. Charity, people do get helped, but we're not in a true free market, right? So we're incentivized not to, because of fiat, we're incentivized because of inflation, not to be that charitable. We're really incentivized to just dog eat dog, zero sum game. I got to get mine or else I can't make rent at the end of the month. Well, where's the time for charity? And so in a free market, you actually have a world where instead of taxes, all these things being taken and stripped away from you every month, and prices keep going up, you have the opposite, right? So you have the ability to be charitable because all the prices are going down in your life in a deflationary free market. So again, we could touch on that more, but I'm seeing all this happen. I see the wealth gap, and the wealth gap was something that, again, as a capitalist, you're just taught like, well, be better, bro. Like just get smarter, work harder, work 4 jobs, like be a capitalist, man. And it's like the completely wrong mindset, because it's, you have, like there's a reason that the younger generation wants more socialism or capitalism or communism today. It's because they see that wealth gap. They see they can't get ahead in life. But the problem is it's misplaced anger. It's placed on the economic system, when in reality, it's the money that the economic system rides on, right? Like in the Bible, it's build your house on rock, not on sand. And so we've chosen to build our economic system on top of fiat sand. Well, of course it's going to collapse. And that's where we find ourselves, right? So it gets conflated. People blame capitalism, when in reality, it's nothing to do with capitalism. They're separate things, right? So I'm seeing the wealth gap. I know it's going to increase violence. I know it's going to increase chaos, suffering, hurting. Companies are going to blow up. People are going to destroy themselves. Big entities, I think, will blow up over time. I think nation states will blow up over time here, namely shorting Bitcoin, probably doing a lot of things like that, doing ridiculous things, selling Bitcoin short, whatever it is. Like they will blow themselves up. People will learn because of that. But long story long, I saw all this. You could put it together in your head, and you're like, holy cow, this is the only thing that's going to give us the opportunity to actually further ourselves, get ahead, and solve these problems that all of us complain and bitch about all the time. Though a lot of society likes rationalizing, they like bitching, they like complaining, they like negativity, because that gives them an excuse not to do something. It gives them the ability to keep complaining and not have to work hard, not have to do anything at all, and just be like, oh, it's someone else's fault. Someone else should go to work and pay for my life. Someone else should go do the hard work and do this. So how do you re-incentivize all of that? How do you re-incentivize the entire structure of society? So all those things can only be done through Bitcoin. It's the only way. And it's not because Bitcoin, it's because of the properties of Bitcoin, right? You can't just name something Bitcoin. It's like some 4-letter word. It's because the properties that Bitcoin has that make it so. So anyway, that was to me where I had to get rid of my team. I had to be in Bitcoin. By 2022, I think I was writing a blog, started a YouTube channel. Just like, hey, how can I provide in any way, provide education, move this space forward in some way? Give me a plan, God. Like, I don't know what to do, but like, I know I need to be here. And so I started helping Aladdin Flynn with Bitcoin trading cards. Awesome guy, incredible team. they've built an incredible company, orange pilling people, red pilling people, very based company with really valuable trading cards, which they didn't start out to be that way 3 years ago, but they become very, very valuable. They're scarce. That's why. So a Bitcoiner knows why. And so doing that, and then just over the last couple of years, grown the channel as well, and now we're just very blessed because now we have a handful of sponsors. And the beautiful part, as you build yours and you grow yours, we have more educators, and you eventually get sponsors and things like that. Like it's so cool because you are literally like Bitcoin is the positive sum force where you're pushing forward this same agenda together, right? And like we all win because of that, right? Where your sponsor is a node, company, or it's like a titanium seed plate, or Stamp Seed is one of our sponsors, or Passport Core, or like some of these, it's like these are incredible products. Exactly. So it's incredible. So like that's where it's cool. Like there's so many good creators now, like yourself, and there's so many out there that, as the next year or two progresses and everyone continues to grow, it's more of that. I've said for a few years, we need 10,000 more podcasters. We need 10,000 more writers in Bitcoin, everything to just overwhelm the system and flood the system. So we have a lot of work to do, but again, I think we only need a couple % of people to get there. And that's where I'm at now, is just, interviewing people, obviously, doing what you do, trying to educate people, writing a bit, writing some books, doing some stuff on the side. I love writing, that I think will be really fun to do. But anyway, that's my long story of just kind of how I started, where I grew up. But I will say this too, my view of society though is of, again, like getting punched in the face and people having to understand, like a lot of the problems in society are because men don't get punched in the face anymore. There's a dislocation, right? There's no feedback loop. Like when you and I grew up, I really think that the last generation, maybe 25 to 30 year olds, or maybe like there was a very last part, maybe 30 and up, I don't know, where like you used to fight, like boys used to fight growing up. They wrestle, you play baseball in the yard, or basketball, or hockey, and you get in fights.
We got soft.
And then you be boys right afterward. And now that doesn't happen. Guys are just sitting there like behind a keyboard now, or little kids are. And there's no feedback loop, because like you punch somebody, you got punched back. You give and you shall receive. And now there's no feedback loop. Anyone can chirp anyone. There's no consequence to it. And so we have a very soft society. Like you said, it's the, strong men create good times. Well, we're at the other end of that spectrum, right? So we're about to go through it. And but it's good because we have the hope is here. We have the ability to change things and make it in a better light and better image. So
no, I love that.
I'll get off my high.
Oh no. I loved it. No, there's just like there's a lot to unpack there. It's like it just reminds me. It feels like before Bitcoin, it's like every that saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It just felt like it was like this until Bitcoin showed up, and it's like, oh, finally there is like a little bit of hope, and we won't go insane anymore. And I wanted to go back to like the part about when you said that when you started learning about it, you're like, why don't they teach this in school and stuff like that? Because I felt the same way. Because like when I started learning about it too, my first book was like the Bitcoin Standard, and I remember reading about it, and I didn't really believe the book, because I was like, if this is true, why is it that nobody else around me knows? Why is nobody else know this? Like, why is this? How is this possible that this truth is just hitting in a book and nobody else knows about it? You know what I'm saying? Like how much blame do you give the education system? How much blame do you give, like, I guess, I don't know, like, I don't know if you want to go into that little rabbit hole about like the Rockefellers, the way that they designed it so that we don't know these things. Like, what do you think about that part of it?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's a lot of what it is, right? The General Board of Education. There's a committee of 10, I believe it was, in the late 1800s. There's, if you go back and look at the history, right? Like John Taylor Gatto has his books. I mean, we homeschool our kids now because of that. They were in a good school for 2 years, just kindergarten, first grade, but we were finally able to work it out where we could homeschool them, and knowing that was the right choice. And one of the first people I talked to about it a few years ago, really truly like in depth, was Daniel Prince, actually. And I forgot to mention that earlier, actually, when Robin Sear was interviewing me, but we talked about it a little bit right at the end. And it's everything. I mean, the whole entire John Taylor Gatto's books are incredible, and they have to. He was the one. So Daniel Prince is the one that showed me the books like 3 years ago, and he was one of the first people I talked to, because when I was in my old fiat life of real estate and everything like that, I was not plugged into Twitter, so I didn't find Bitcoin Twitter until like 2022, because I was very Instagram, Facebook focus, stuff like that, because I was doing local real estate stuff. So I was doing Facebook lives all the time and Instagram lives and like just for my local market and trying to build my fiat business. But 2022, when I was able to kind of take a breath and sit back, I found Bitcoin Twitter, and I just wasn't active on Twitter for like 10 years. And I was very active like politically on Twitter like in 09, 10, 11, 12. And then I got away from it for 10 years. So then 2022 came around, I got on Bitcoin Twitter, and I found, Larry Lepard and Daniel Prince and a bunch of these people like Eric Hasan. And I was just like, holy cow, like these guys believe exactly the things I do. And I didn't even know these people existed. Like I had no idea. And that's where, one of the first people, I think Daniel Prince had me on his podcast like in 2022. And we talked about, some of this stuff, and he mentioned homeschooling, told me, hey, you should go grab these books. Cause again, we had, 2, 3 kids at the time. We were expecting our fourth. And so he was like, you got to go check these out. And they blow your mind open. They go through the history of all this, the history of the whole entire, Prussian schooling system, compulsory schooling. And the whole thing is meant to basically brainwash you and take you away from your family. And so that way the state can have control of the children and not the parents. Because obviously the parents are going to do the best job for their children learning. I talk to a lot of people about homeschooling, and they always say like, well, I can't do it. I'm just not the person to do it, something like that. And I was like, if you love your child, you will figure it out. You will find a way. You will be fine. Don't worry. And it's the greatest objection handler I could ever give somebody, because who's going to say, well, I don't love my child, or, well, I can't find a way, because I do love them, right? So therefore I have to then be able to figure it out, because you do. And then you realize, as Daniel Prince said, he's like, your whole job as a parent is to not have your children brainwashed by the compulsory school system. That's it, period. Like they don't need to do anything else, truly. And they really don't. They're going to learn everything they need to know by being around you, doing, being with you day to day, building your business. And again, are you going to mix in some schoolwork? I think that reading, writing, arithmetic, if kids become masters of that up until 10 years old, that's all they practice, that's it, they're going to be ahead of 99% of society. And you don't use anything else besides those couple basic things day in and day out. So what else do you need? So anyway, I do think that the whole school system, government-run school system, it's not the public school system, it's the government-run school system, is the genesis of all these problems. And everyone really knows it. I mean, you talk to so many people, they all see it, they can smell it, they talk about it, and they say, why is this happening? I can't believe, school's not even worth it, and blah, blah, blah. But then no one really puts all the pieces truly together. And it's tough because, again, fiat makes you get on that rat wheel every single day. You can't afford to leave your job, right? You can't afford to do these things. So you feel trapped. I've talked to a lot of people like that too. They're like, I get it. Like, I agree with you, Brandon, but what do I do? I'm already so far down the rabbit hole. I can't, how do I leave my job? How do I do these things? And so we find ourselves just inured in the system, and no one feels like they can get out or can get out. It's not very easy to get out. And if I leave, then I lose my healthcare. Or if I leave, and then it's all these limiting thoughts, right? Going back to the psychology and philosophy of things, we have these limiting thoughts. This, life is just a story of life is a collection of stories that we tell ourselves all the time, right? I can't do this, or I shouldn't do that, and we all deal with it. I deal with it all the time, and I try to catch myself, but it's all these little stories that we tell ourselves. So it's the faster you can rip your children, which are your greatest asset in life. People, so much of society thinks that they're a liability in life right now. Like, oh, you can't afford them. This is how much kids cost in your life. And it's like, man, what a hellish landscape that they've created for us, right? Like, your kids are your greatest asset. They'll take care of you when you're older in life, keep you company, actually do things for you if you spend time with them and actually invest time into them and actually take care of them when they're younger and build them up, because then they will definitely take care of you later in life. And they also will be your biggest asset, because who knows, maybe if you involve them in your day-to-day and what you're doing, they'll help you run your business. They'll be doing a lot of things in your businesses or whatever it is. And so you just miss out on all that when you're just thinking me, second to second. And again, the fiat rat wheel kind of forces people to do that. So again, I have empathy for everyone, because we've all been there, but it's a tough thing. We definitely have to rip ourselves
away from. It's like the more I look into the school system stuff, it's like, it's created to keep you to create soldiers and workers, it's created to help you, to make you obey, but it's not created to help you fulfill your full potential, basically. And it's like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, because to me, homeschooling until, I would say until the beginning of this year, I never thought about it. To me, it was not an option. I'm not doing this. I'm gonna follow what everybody else is doing. But now I'm starting to think about it more and more. Now I'm like, this is starting to look like something that I should really start thinking about. How do I do it? How do I actually? But the thing is, like, when it's almost like buying Bitcoin for the first time. Like when nobody else around you is doing it, you're the first one to do it, and it's like, okay, what if something goes wrong? What if I mess up? What if my kids turn out to be stupid? It's like like am I qualified to be to teach somebody at home? But like you always have, like you said, you have those negative thoughts in your head that's kind of, these are the things that stop you from doing it. But like deep down, there's a part of me that knows that this is the right thing to do, because you send them out there to just learning. I mean, I don't want to say useless stuff, but like a lot of these things you can teach them yourself. Like it's not that big of a deal. So I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, you muted.
You look at like homework, and you look at like John Taylor Gatto talks about homework at night. That's just another way to keep you controlled without you being in school. Like why do kids? I mean, like kids, so many kids, whether it's public schools, private government schools, private schools, they have homework at like kindergarten, first grade. It's like, are you insane? Like when exactly do the kids have time to be kids? Then they'll have like a 30-minute recess. And it's just like, what in the world is happening? And that's where he talks about it. And he was teacher of the year in 1992 in the state of New York. And then I think kind of realized it at the end of his tenure, basically. And he gave these speeches, like the acceptance speeches of like receiving the reward. And he would just roast the government school system, basically. And so the books are incredible. And he talks about like, they keep you from seeing your based uncle, at night or in the evening, or playing sports, or like just because kids learn with their body a lot of times, right? Just, kinetic movement, like all these different things. Like that's how everything gets put together. And it's like when you're just sitting in a classroom all day, especially boys, obviously, like especially a boy. I mean, girls can, maybe get away with it a little bit, being young and being in a classroom, but still, like, one of my girls, she's more energy than 95% of boys I've seen that are 5 to 10 years old. So it's like these kids need to be kids. They need to go burn off energy, and they need to have 5 recesses a day. They need to like go out and do this stuff, and then they can learn for 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, get some math in, multiplication, division, whatever. So that to me is, again, the ills of society are directly linked to brainwashing the kids. I mean, look at all the different stuff, the green agenda, like all these different things that people have been crammed down our throats in government schools. It's all by design. It's all from the top, mandated. Well, you got to teach these things, got to do this, got to do. I mean, it's just like, it's hilarious. So
I agree. That's one rabbit hole. I'm like, just at the surface of that one, I'm probably gonna go deep down that one for sure. Like, cause it's very interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think that this conversation would go towards the schooling system, but that's what Bitcoin does.
I tell you, Ralph. I've been talking to a ton of people about it recently. I've got some policemen that I know, like just, like different people that like I just met randomly, and then they're like really on the homeschool rabbit train now. They're just like, dude, I work for the government, and like I can't stand it, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, the sentiment changed from 5 years ago to kind of like what you said. Like I knew homeschool, but like I still wasn't even 3 years ago, I wasn't like, okay, but it took me a year or two. It took us a year or two to really like, okay, logistically figure things out. It's a change, but then once you do it, it's like having a child. You can't explain a child and what it's like having one until you've done it. Like I can't go explain to someone who's never had one what it's like. And you can't explain Bitcoin to someone either until you own it and understand it, run a node, self-custody it. Like I can't explain it. It's very hard for someone to grok it until they've done it. Homeschool is the same thing. It's the same way where like you don't understand the beauty of it and the importance of it until you do it. Like it's truly wild, and it just opens up this world where you're free. You're not tied down. The government, school systems now. Where are you? How come you're late today? You missed 10 days of school. And they're just doing what they're told to do. Right? Again, not thinking. Very little thinking going on in the world of like, well, is this actually the way we should be going in society? And we're guiding and teaching on the exception and not the rule, like just different stuff like that, where it's like, maybe a couple % of kids learn best this way, just sitting in school for 8 hours or whatever, but just do that. But again, that's how the property tax system comes about, like all these different things to fund all these different public works and brainwash the kids. And
it is. So. It's definitely something to at least to think about for sure. Because it is. It is. But I wanted to talk about I was I guess creeping on you for a little bit, and I was like looking at your previous videos from like years ago when you first started your channel, and I saw you like, well, you're a pretty like you talked about before, like started investing like the Warren Buffett style, buy low, sell high. And I saw that you had a video about talking about the secrets of Warren Buffett's success and how it's like basically invest patiently. So I'm guessing you're probably like,
Yep.
you follow this guideline pretty well. But like, did Warren Buffett kind of affect the way that you saw Bitcoin when we first started, or because he's like, he basically still to this day won't admit that. I mean, I saw a video when the last speech that he had when he talked about, I don't know if you saw it, when he talked about how he understands that
Yep.
money is basically trash.
Yes.
but like he doesn't, he still never admits that Bitcoin is the way out. So like, what did that stop you buying, or did you kind of like ignore his opinion about Bitcoin?
Yeah, Warren Buffett is interesting just because it's like two things can be true, right? I mean, he's obviously, there's a lot of things he says that are very smart, and then there's obviously things he doesn't get or doesn't understand, and whatever. So I think one of the definitions of genius is being able to hold opposing opinions in your head at the same time. And so it's understanding that, like, again, we're all human, we're all flawed, none of us are perfect. So Warren's no different. He's got a lot of smart things that he's done, and so he's no different either. And I think that, like 10 years ago, I was much more into Warren Buffett in the sense I was never like a Warren Buffett acolyte or like traveling to Omaha or or something like that every year by any means. I have his, I think they're right back here actually. I have his letters to the shareholders, like that big yellow. I'm trying to think. Somewhere. Yeah, it's like hidden. It's like right here. It's hiding behind the little lip of the thing. So like the big 50 years of shareholder letters, like stuff like that. So I have some books from him that over the years I would read and flip through. But anyway, the big thing with him though, I think one of the smartest things that you can take away from Buffett is a lot of what he's done. Number one is quite honestly useless today in today's world. And it's, again, he's a smart guy, got a good team of people, but at the same time, he's had a 40-year bond bull market where the rates have gone down, and it's buoyed really everything he's done. No matter what you do, I mean, if you debase the currency, everything you do is going to go up in price, right? So it's really the dollar going down that's what made everyone's assets go up. So in saying that, again, he's very smart still, obviously, but his patience, what he talks about with patience, obviously, is so incredibly important. And the theme of him, this is why I bought Bitcoin. I was saying I bought Bitcoin in 2018 and not 2017 when everyone was rushing in, is because of just that concept of buy low, sell high. But it's very hard to do that in practice. Actually, in theory, like everyone gets it, but how come no one does it in practice? It's because it's tough. Your emotions get the best of you. And I think of like Donald Trump as well. It took him 20 years, I think it was, to buy Hudson Yards in New York or something like that. So he talks about that in The Art of the Deal, and he talks about 20 years. I think the deal fell apart initially, and then he had to wait like 15 or so years or more to start it again, and then finally took a couple of years to finally get done. So if clearly these guys are billionaires, these guys are very good investors, very smart. What are some things you can take away from them? Well, patience. You look at anyone, Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, like all these guys that, Bill Millers of the world, that are incredibly smart, and they have tons of patience. And it's, even though a lot of them started, like Warren Buffett didn't start, a lot of them started with like modest means to a degree. It's one of those things where the patience is what guides you and really gives you that ability of thinking long term to make smart moves instead of irrational moves in the short term. So the patience quotient, I think, is really the thing that you need to take away from Buffett, whether it's just in investing in general, because again, like he always would say, basically, I want to find the companies, a couple companies that I love, and then I wait for them to go on sale. But the average person, because we're on this fiat rat wheel and in this rat race, we have a very hard time doing that, because we're continually getting in consumer debt. The average middle class and poor person is constantly on the rat race, trying to just make rent at the end of the month and never knowing how they get ahead. And so that then you have this world where you can't even think long-term at all. You never escape and jump off that. And that's the thing that has driven me for 15 years of like, how do you position yourself to get out of that? And a lot of it, again, it's patience, and it's loading the spring, as I call it. It's not pulling prosperity from the future into the now. It's just being patient and waiting. And it's very tough. It is very, very tough when you have to flip on Instagram, or you turn on whatever YouTube channel, and everything you see is just like, oh yeah, right. Everything is perfect in the world for everyone else. and it drives you up the wall. Really, so I empathize with people nowadays. It's much harder than it was 30 years ago and before, because it was harder to see. You couldn't just flip open a phone and see it all day to day, right? But hour to hour, minute to minute. So that to me, I think, is patience. That's going to be the biggest thing for you. So a Bitcoin holder, all you have to do is provide value to the world and then buy Bitcoin, save Bitcoin, and you're going to become massively wealthy going forward. And your purchasing power is going to grow and grow and grow. And that the patient people, the ones that can see the future and be patient, are the ones that are going to win, just like they always have to a large extent, right? It's just in a different frame or different world, different asset class right now, because that's the time we're in. Like life goes through these different cycles and different asset classes go up and then down, up and down. We're in this world where all these things are being printed, you know, the PE ratios, everyone talks about, like all these things are overvalued. Well, it's like, yeah, that's because Bitcoin's undervalued. Like there's gotta be something that's undervalued, right? Like maybe you could say gold and silver are undervalued still. Bitcoin is undervalued, and they are going to suck up and absorb a lot of the excess and a lot of the BS that's been going on in society over the coming years. And that exponential debt curve will increase, meaning the exponential growth of Bitcoin will continue, because what's the only thing that's equal to your finite time and energy? With finite Bitcoin, right? So it's the only thing that matches it. So as education increases, as you put out more pods, as I do, as Robin does, as we as people write more books, as there's more blogs, right? More, and then more Justin Trudeau Dutch farmer events, and Justin Trudeau trucker Black Swan events, right? Like 2020, more of these things happen. Like more and more people keep coming over to the truth and saying, "Oh my gosh, like I saw Ralph talk about this, I saw so and so talk about it. Here we are, like just the right time, right place." So anyway, that to me, I think is how it's all kind of comes together in the future. But again, the patience thing, I think, is the most important thing with Warren Buffett. And you can take good and bad things from people. I think that's, again, another form of genius, I think, is not only holding opposing opinions in your head at the same time, but being able to learn from other people. So not just having to learn yourself, right? Like, do I have to learn to touch the stove when I just saw someone in their hand? Well, no, I should be able to not do that myself, right? But there's a lot of people that don't do that. Like there's a lot of people that just go up there and like touch the stove themselves too. The curiosity, like that high tide preference mentality gets the best of them, right? So that to me is like you can exponentially increase your learning if you can look at other people and be like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm not doing that. Ooh, you know, like I'm not taking out, 3 HELOCs on my house to go buy jet skis and boats and, whatever, send my kids all to these compulsory schools. And what did I get out of it? Or whatever, like that to me is like, can we learn from other people? And again, you have a lot of people now that they look back. I've talked to many 60, 70-year-olds and they're like, I wish I would have worked less. What is it for at the end of the day? I don't have the relationship with my kids that I wanted, and it's bearing out in society, right? Like people don't. You have a lot of breakdown of the family unit, and the breakdown of society because of that very thing. And people are starting to realize that. So, patience, prioritize what are the important things in life, truth, and it's going to get you much further later on in life.
Right. No, I agree. The patient, I'm glad it came to me naturally, being patient, because I came into investing knowing that, hey, this is, to me, like, I'm going to set my money somewhere and I'm just going to wait and stuff like until because I was thinking, I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to do anything until I'm 65. Although I do, I used to do a lot of day trading and swing trading, but like that, but I always had a long, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy and hold. But like, it is hard, like you said, to like, nowadays with all the scrolling, the short attention span, it's so difficult to it's not, patience is like, it's not something you can really teach. It's just like, I don't know. It's like, how do you tell somebody, hey, like, if that's all society is teaching nowadays, hey, look at this quick 30-second app, and then on to the next one. It's like we're like training our brains to just be like, go. Like, I don't know, man. It's we're not setting up the future generation for like success, really. So unfortunately, but
no.
Yeah. I know. I wanted to pivot to your one of your thing on X. Actually, you have a quote on there saying that you are here to disinfect darkness with light. Actually, can you explain what does that mean to you? Actually, disinfect the darkness. What's the darkness?
Yeah, that's a great question. The darkness is evil, quite simply. I mean, it's Satan. To put it very bluntly, and it's to it's to shock people, it's, things like that. And I don't say it flippantly. It's true. Like, so a lot of what we've been talking about building the foundation for, I was very political in life, and I've realized there's just a simple frame you can kind of see life through in a way and kind of understand what's going on in the world. And I thought it was political, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I thought it was a political thing, and you could vote your way out of it, vote harder, like get to the ballot box. And then you realize, oh, they corrupted all that from every way, shape, or form you can think of. It's completely corrupted. And like Stalin or Lenin said, like, matters not who votes, but who counts the votes, right? And that doesn't mean like literally, it can mean actually at the ballot box who's counting the votes, but it can also mean who's got the money printers, right? So that there's many ways you can look at that, and that leads us to this middle of the pyramid, or the second level. So you realize that everyone's fighting this political layer, like 95% of society, and they're all fighting down here, thinking they're making a difference. I'm going to do this. We're door knocking. I put my vote sticker on, all this garbage, and then you realize that none of that matters because they're all doing the same thing, right? Like the one administration comes in, they do this, and then the next administration comes in, different party, and they're doing the same stuff. Like. And so at some point, again, you have to wake up and ask yourself, like, what is going on? Like, why is this nothing ever changing? And why are we continually careening out of control? So then you realize, again, the event for 15 years ago that awakened me was, again, the great financial crisis. And so I realized, oh, wow, the money was destroyed. Money was gold and silver. The currency was a claim check, which was actually on our dollar bills. So if anyone doesn't know, it literally said payable to the bearer on demand in X amount of gold. Whatever the dollar bill said, that much gold was given to that person if they went to the bank or central bank and asked for their gold, because that gold is the money. The gold and silver are the money. They're not. It's not dollars. So that's where all the funny games come in, and that's where they obviously print more, and then people rush in to get their real money back, and then there's none there, and that's a bank run, and then banks collapse. All these things happen, and then they're able to. And in American affairs, in the 40s, Beardsley Ruml, the Fed head of New York, the Fed governor there, wrote an article called "Taxes for Revenue Are Obsolete," and he admitted right there that we don't need taxes. We do taxes for these four reasons, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but like two of them, one or two of them were we do it to coerce people into doing what we want. And then to redistribute wealth to the different groups we want to stimulate, subsidy things or win votes, in essence, stuff like that. I mean, if you pay attention, they will tell you what they're doing. Evil has to tell you what it's doing. It literally has to hide it in plain sight. This is Howard Dean, like 25 years ago, saying the quiet part out loud as well. Like he was on a news network saying, yeah, if we gave people too much socialism, then they would revolt. Like the frog would know that it's getting burned, it would jump out of the pot. And so they know they have to keep it just at a slight, simmer, and then no one will notice, and then we can fry you long term. And so this is hundreds of years of history and education that it's there for anyone who wants to see it. This is not like, Ralph and Brandon aren't
conspiracy
making
theory stuff.
This has literally been written about for decades, which goes back to the government school system of like, oh, I wonder why we're not learning these things. Interesting. So coming back to all this pyramid, so you realize, okay, politics isn't the answer, but that's where they're distracting you with the money printer and their endless propaganda through government schools, through media, through social media, through sporting events, right? We're going to put hashtags on the field, we're going to do all this ridiculous stuff to distract people from what's going on. Even like the Titan sub a couple years ago, right? God rest those people's soul. Like if they did actually die, I think they did. They probably did. But what better way for a couple of billionaires to like start a new life? Or like we go out in the middle of the ocean, drop a sub down there, and then 2 hours later we're off in Tahiti, or whatever. So, but people don't even think like that. They don't think adversarially. They don't think like, oh, that was even a possibility. I've said that to many people, and they're like shocked. They're like, oh, what do you mean? And it's like, you never even thought that was a possibility? Like, well, how do you know? Were you raising the wreck down there? Like, did you bring it up yourself? And so like people just believe things hook, line, and sinker. And so this is like the endless propaganda where at that time there was a bunch of huge news issues going on that week. I think with Hunter Biden and whatever. And there's a bunch of news things going. And then what they do, they dragged everyone for 4 days, that oxygen counter on the corner of CNN and all the different news channels, and told you how long the oxygen was going to last. When we find out end of the week, oh yeah, the Navy knew as soon as it crumbled and collapsed on itself, we knew right away. And it's like how the people aren't up in arms after it, again, for the 1,000th time being hit over the head, with the Three Stooges, and people don't wake up is beyond me. But again, one day at a time, right? One person at a time that wakes up, I guess. And so you realize, again, political layer, nothing gets done there. It's all distraction. It's all theater. It's all to distract from the real problems up top. And then the money layer is the second layer. And that's where you realize that, in the human realm, this is what's happening. And this is how the humans are controlling other humans. But then there is a top realm, the top of the pyramid, which is what I have come to over 20, 25 years of studying all this and studying the Bible and just everything, is good versus evil spirits. That's literally at the top of the pyramid, is good versus evil, fighting 24/7 all day long, 365. And everyone has their own run-ins of true good and true evil. And if you go back and truly sit back in your life and think of moments of really pure evil you have seen or heard about, even some events this week or things like that, the law of polarity says if there's pure evil or people doing evil things, there's also pure good as well. There's good as well. So there has to be a deity, right? We know there's evil, there's satanic, Satan, and we know there's, and Lucifer, fortunately, is just a fallen angel. So God created him, and that we're good because God can still controls the angels, really, at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, which comes back to full circle, we win at the end of the day. Truth always wins. Now we arrive back at like Bitcoin, stuff like that. Like, what is truth? And this is where disinfecting darkness with light is going into the deep recesses of the spiritual world, in essence, and fighting darkness wherever it lies. And darkness doesn't like to be exposed, right? It doesn't like light. It doesn't want to have the truth be shown. So think of any area of life, obviously, you can put that to the test, whether it's the schooling system and people, clashing with you about these things and fighting you, hopelessly inured in the system, thinking that they're the right ones. They're the ones that are going to do it. And it's like, we've been in that system. I've been in that system. So I can tell you, I've been on both sides of it now, and you are emphatically, objectively wrong. Like, these people are incorrect. And there's a lack of humility there. And that's what evil does not let you have. It doesn't let you have that humility or that empathy and start seeing things from both sides or maybe multiple angles. And so when you start realizing that is good versus evil spirits fighting all day long, all day, every day of human existence. And then that's what controls the money printers, actually. That's what controls these people that are controlling the world, so to speak. And again, there's nuance there. And it's not, again, like, okay, like their tinfoil hats on, right? And so it's like, again, all this literature is out there. And then you realize, again, the money printers control the politics. And the politics is unfortunately where they have learned, we can catch everyone up in Kardashian hype cycle, WWE style entertainment everywhere, bread and circus, the Coliseum, fantasy sports, fantasy drafts, sedate people with, all kinds of different drugs, legalized drugs, illegal drugs, whatever. Like, we can sedate the public. And again, this is not Ralph and I making this up. This has literally all been talked about for hundreds of years. And they know this. Like, evil knows this, and evil can incept any one of us at any time, really, because if you're a vessel that's open to that, we have been given free will, then you are susceptible to it. And it's a fight every day. We can choose. Like, you and I could choose to go get under a bridge and start,
shooting up,
putting bad things. Exactly. Thank you. I was just about to say that. But every day we have a choice to do that, and we don't choose to do that every day, right? We have a choice to either be very empathetic and grateful and blessed and be positive and make a force for good in the world, or we can choose to leave our family and go under the bridge and say sayonara and throw it all away. But again, and that's where I come back to, I guess the last thing I'll say on it is, if people get really scared about stuff like that, but the truth is truth, and people need to hear the truth, because clearly for a long time people haven't heard any of the truth. And the good thing is, like I said, God, wins. The deity wins at the end of the day because he made all of them. And so there's a fear there. And so of the devil. So we know what the end game is. We know truth is truth and truth will win. And we know also that there is pure good in the world, and everyone is created good actually as well. I want to say that too. So everyone is created good. It's just some vessels get incepted. That's why I was saying this a minute ago. Some get incepted with evil and then let that evil fester and propagate. And that's why it's on us every day to try to help people or ourselves make good decisions ourselves. And the way we know all this and confirm it is we don't have 15 million mass casualty events every single day all the time in human history, right? So like therein lies the answer that, people are inherently good, because again, Ralph and Brandon could go out and 10 million other dudes could go out and start just being animals, but we don't. We choose not to every day. And so that there tells you, therefore, that is the case, that people are inherently good. They are made good because we do act civilized. Vast majority of people do. So anyway, long story long, that's what the disinfecting darkness with light is putting a light, shining a light on these very real things that, again, unfortunately, society just hasn't wanted to talk about, or just hasn't, been brought to light, quote unquote, for a
Yeah,
long
no,
time.
100% agree. I do believe the same thing too. It's like I believe that everybody at your core you are good. It's just, life event
Mm-hmm.
shit happens where that could
Yes.
turn you into,
Yep.
or
Absolutely.
somebody manipulates you into turning you into something else. But deep down, like there's always some good into everybody. So yeah, no, 100% agree with that one. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And and it's hard too because like there's so many like from like media manipulation, all that stuff going on around. It's so hard to like get people into the right
Yes.
head. So like yeah, no, it's yeah, it's a lot. And that's why that's why I like go and do the podcast like you said. Like it's you said, like you said before, you said we needed more people to do podcasts and stuff like that. Like at first, before
Mm-hmm.
I started the podcast, I was like, oh, we already have like guys like Brendan doing it, Robin doing it, Paula. There's so many people doing podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't need to start doing podcasts. There's enough. And then I started like looking around, being like, oh shit, like nobody knows about this. Like they like literally
Mm-hmm.
like I don't like there's nobody around me that knows about Bitcoin. And I'm just like, okay, I guess maybe I should like
Yep.
start telling it in my own way. And then like and like you start talking about other things,
Yep.
going down rabbit holes. Like some rabbit holes I'm like afraid to talk to on my channel because I'm like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
there's some dark stuff out there. And there's some like I mean, we talk
Yep.
about evil. I mean, shit, like
Yeah.
some of the stuff I've been
Yes.
learning, man, I'm like, yo, like, is this for real? Like, I mean, and and
Yes.
it's hard to believe, but like at the same time, it's like, dude, they've lied about the 2% inflation for years. This shit is like literally, I don't know, man. It's this is yeah. Now the evil side of it is actually wild, man. Like I feel like I feel like I'm about to start posting on Noster where I can actually express myself without worried about people actually
Mm-hmm. Yep.
canceling my stuff and all that, because I'm like there's a lot that you learn and you're like, okay, I don't want to say this to the wrong whatever platform, but yeah, it's wild, man. And I wanted to
It
switch
is.
over to like from like all the years of being into the Bitcoin space. Like, what have you found to be like the best ways to like orange pill? Well, I guess not orange pill people, but I guess like kind of like explain the problem to people, I guess.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is meeting people where they are,
Yeah,
obviously. So whatever is ailing them,
yeah,
like that's, I think, yeah, that's really been the biggest thing for me, is just where are people at? What's, if they're a business owner talking about, I don't know, credit card fees, like, hey, is that really eating you guys up, or whatever it is. I think that to me has been one of the biggest things as well. And again, just listening, right? Like listening, where are they at? What are they complaining about? Things of that nature. And I will say, again, unless you're Warren
hmm
Buffett, or again, some type of Paul Tudor Jones or something like that, there's probably not a lot of people that are going to take you that
yeah,
seriously. And all you can do is just put it out there. Like, you don't need to beat people over the head with it. You don't need to talk for 3 hours and plaster someone into the
yeah,
couch, talking to them, because no one's really going to take it that
yeah,
well. So you just need to meet them where they are, throw it out there, and just be like, again, like, hey, I think I might have found something that cures some of that. Like, you should really check it out.
yeah.
Like, that type of
Right, right.
mentality is going to be much better recepted by human beings than just like, oh yeah, Bitcoin
Yeah,
fixes that, stuff
yeah.
like that. There's time and
Right,
place for
right,
that, obviously, right? Like, definitely time and place, but most human beings are only going to accept it on their own terms, and you got to help people come to their own
right.
conclusions, because again, you're never going to tell a human being, hey, this is the thing that's going to fix your problems or
Right.
whatever. It's, you have to set it out there for them, so that way they can come get it when they're
Yeah,
ready for
yeah.
it.
No, I like that. I like that. There's the other thing too. Safety Moose said if Bitcoin doesn't fix it, it's not a problem. I like that quote. I don't know if you've heard him say that before. Yeah,
So
no, I
good.
love that. Oh, what do you think about
Oh man.
the 4 year cycle? Actually, do you think it's over? Because I mean, I know you talked to a lot of different people, different opinions about it and all that. What do you think personally? Because to me, I feel like actually, you go ahead because I want to hear your opinion about that one. Actually,
Yeah, I think that we're gonna have cycles
Yeah.
still. I don't know if the 4-year
Yeah.
cycle, that to me is what I don't
Yeah.
really know about. Because again, we just talk about a lot about human psychology,
Right.
stuff like that. There's always gonna be fear and greed. There's always gonna be these black swan events, good and bad type of thing. So we're always gonna have these ebbs and flows and ups and downs. But does the volatility get squashed a bit, and is it a little bit less going
Yeah.
forward? Yeah, obviously, naturally, like it will, just because more and more people are getting into it, so you're not going to have as massive of swings
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. But yeah, I think it's we're going to have cycles. It's just, is it a 5-year cycle? Is it a 3-year
Right.
cycle? Is it a 5-year? Like it just depends on, I think, what's going on in the world. As the asset grows and as the market cap grows, we're going to have this world where it's really more predicated on well, in the beginning, I'll say that the first 15 years, yes, it was more like a
Yeah.
4-year cycle. Then I feel like we're entering this phase, this next 10, 15 years, where it is a bit more this adoption cycle, where there's the volatility is kind of up and down, where you might have some 3-year cycles, like I said, or 5-year. It could be really like kind of up and
Yeah.
down a bit to that extent. But then eventually, 10, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to have, there's not going to be much volatility, and it's just going to be much
Yeah.
smoother going forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way I see
Yeah,
it
I
playing
see, I
out.
see. Do you ever like think about like that's the other thing I started like thinking about a little bit more, like as far as like, because people, I mean, ask me price prediction, shit, I don't know. But like people don't think
Yeah.
about like it's like, for example, like a guy like me, like 3 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be doing a Bitcoin podcast, and I feel like there are a lot of like little
Yeah.
small channel doing the same thing, and I feel like adoption is like gonna, to me it feels like adoption is gonna grow faster and faster because of these like, I don't know, some dude working at McDonald's decided, hey, you know what, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel and educating more people, and a nurse like me being like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna start educating more nurses about this. So like, do you think people factor that in their price prediction as well, or do you think that's like a somewhat underrated part of Bitcoins? I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about like the small channels, entering the space?
Yeah, I think that it's gonna happen more, and we're gonna have we need way more people educating,
Yeah.
obviously, and it's huge, because that's what Bitcoin does. The incentivization structure makes it so that people that your life force is, you're invested in it in many ways, and namely the wealth part. So you're incentivized to keep educating. You're incentivized to run a node. You're incentivized to uphold the network integrity. You're incentivized to do all these things, and that's just going to continue going forward. And that's partly how and you need different channels too, because everyone talks at everyone's different, so you need different segments of society that are going to relate to different types of
Yeah.
educators out there. Just like again, we talked about the compulsory school system. Well, there's how many different teachers out there in the world, formal education, traditional legacy teachers. Well, we're going to need damn near as many,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bitcoin teachers, and we have a long way to go. I mean, we hopefully don't need
Yeah.
that many, but I think we have a long way to go, in the sense of, we need different personalities. We need different people out there. We need the Ralphs, the Brandons, we need the Joe
Mm-hmm.
Rogans, a few
Mm-hmm.
of them. We need, some different people out there. We have to have people hitting people at different
Yep.
levels, different backgrounds, different
Mm-hmm.
ethnicities, different social wealth background,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like you have to that, and you're seeing it, right? Like you turn on just the channels that we have, then you turn on CNBC, and you've got a lot of money guys, the older wealth now, that are coming into the space. Like we mentioned Bill Miller and a bunch of these guys. Well, you've got a lot of these guys, the Michael Saylors of the world, that are talking and waxing poetic
Yeah.
about Bitcoin now. They weren't doing
Yeah.
that before. So that only continues. And again, the beauty is, we don't need that many people, I don't believe. I think we only need a couple
Mm-hmm.
percent, like the Revolutionary War here in America, where you have a couple percent of people that picked up their musket and said, we're going, I'm not doing this
Yeah.
anymore, and this is the end, it stops now. And that's all that you need. We're 50%, 80%, 100% of people are never going to figure it out. They're never going to
Yeah.
understand it. You can't wait around and think that, well, we're just going to educate people over the next 100 years, over time, and people will get to it. That, like, Bitcoin's
Mm-hmm.
inevitable. Like Bitcoin, that's probably one of the most dangerous things in
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin to say, really, truly. And the more over time I thought about it, is that it leads you to doing
Mm-hmm.
nothing, right? right? You can just sit back and do
Mm-hmm.
nothing. And your duty at the end of the day is to uphold the integrity of the system and to make sure more people are coming to
Yeah.
the truth. And so if you're not doing that, I mean, we saw it in American politics. We saw libertarians for, what, 2, 3, 4 decades now, just sitting back and, well, I'm out. I'm not
Yeah.
voting. This is stupid. Blah blah blah. Not being, so not only is their vote gone, whether call that, well, it doesn't matter or not, which is always the excuse of like, well, it didn't even matter anyway, or it doesn't even count. Or they're not counting them or whatever. Yeah, it's like, but your voice is gone. So like, politics is downstream from culture, and the important part is being in the discourse, and that's more important almost than the votes, even a lot of times, right? Because if a politician thinks that their constituents want X, then they're generally going to do that. They're going to have to do that, or they will be gone, or there'll be a mutiny, or there'll be something will happen, right? And that's the beauty of America, is there are 400 million firearms in the country. So we have that going for us. And, the government, as our founding father said, need to be scared of their people. And we have the opposite right now. And that's because people just sat back and said, well, it doesn't matter. Who cares? I've got things too good. I'm on my lazy boy. I'm watching Bread and Circus. I'm watching the Kardashians. I'm watching Desperate Housewives. I'm watching the NFL. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Oh, well, so sad. I'm eating garbage food. So my testosterone level is low. And so I don't really feel like getting off my couch right now.
Man.
I'm lazy. I'm overweight.
That's
I'm
depressing as
shape.
hell.
I don't. And so you have this world of like, again, and no one wants to look back and admit what's actually happening and have any of these conversations. I mean, very few people want to have it, but again, it comes back to, we need different people, meeting people where they're at in different places at different times. And that's the importance of this, because believe me, you heard it from me here first. Most people don't like what I have to say. I haven't had exactly like millions of friends growing up as a child and just as a young adult and now an adult. Like this is not something that, like gets me tons of friends. I'll say that, and gets me, called on to CNBC or something like that. Anything but that. So it's a slog, but that's, I wouldn't have any other way.
I like that. Yeah, man. And other than the number growth technology, though, how else has Bitcoin changed you?
I mean, it's given me, I'm here with you, like I'm here with you. I'm having these incredible conversations with incredible people, and community, I always talk about community too, is the number one aspect of a survival situation. And we're humans. So we're in a survival situation, whether you like it or not. And we're trying to survive on this spinning marble. And community is, it's not Bitcoin or food storage or gold or, firearms that are really going to save you in really critical, big event scenarios. It's your community, it's the people around you, because you're always going to be lacking something. And that's what people have found. That's what we've found over the years of studying catastrophes or studying events, black swan events, etc., is that it's community. You look at like the hurricanes that come through here in America or whatever it is, and, is Bitcoin or firearms like, on like a one-off cases, it's helping people, right? But what's the general, like when you see the cameras turn on, what's usually happening? Well, it's humans, it's like, it's community. It's the people coming in from all over the country to help out, or neighbors helping neighbors and protecting each other, or whatever it is. It's community is the number one thing. So I feel very grateful and blessed, because I have all kinds of friends, dozens, hundreds of friends over the last 3 years that I didn't have before, and that all think like me, because like I said, I didn't know they existed 3+ years ago. I figured there's people out there to a degree, but I didn't know that there was this Bitcoin contingent, this crowd that I tapped into, that I could really become, like you just like, excuse me, that you just you felt like you know each other forever, right? And that there's something about that in the Bitcoin community that is very enticing and amazing and hopeful, because you just don't see that in society. It's a very beaten down, broken willed society, unfortunately, today. We see it all over the place, and Bitcoin is one of those last stands for hope. I mean, those people that believe in a bigger thing than them, obviously believe in Christ. Okay, that's part of it in the that realm, the spiritual fight, but also in the human realm. There's nothing I've seen like Bitcoin. There's definitely no politics, like we talked about earlier. Is that pyramid, that structure?
No, I love that. You know what? That made me think of. I had a Bitcoin meetup yesterday, and I got to, I got to meet a few people, and I feel like if it wasn't for Bitcoin, if we just saw each other from like, just randomly, we would have never started talking. But just because we all kind of knew, oh, you're a Bitcoin, oh, you're a Bitcoin, and we just started like just having great conversations. It's like, I feel like Bitcoin just really just bring people that that we're just not, probably would have never got together, in a regular life together. So I
Yes.
love that part of it. And even the podcast too, like being able to talk to people across the world about, like, the problems going on and all that. I love that part of Bitcoin, actually, the community that we're building, getting to know others, and like feeling like you're not alone in this, in a way it is like a some sort of therapy. So like, you feel like you're not crazy, because
Mm-hmm.
you have all these ideas. You see the darkness, like you talked about, and but like nobody else sees it. It's just you and your thoughts.
No.
And yeah, no, I like the community aspect of it. So yeah, that's no, that's well said. And I have one last question for you. I know I have to head on, unfortunately, man. I could talk to you for hours, man. But like, I have one last question for you, but it's gonna be a two-part question. uh it's if you had to go back in time and give yourself advice other than buying Bitcoin, what would you tell yourself? And the second part of that one is, what advice would you give younger athletes, actually? I mean, whether it's, hockey, soccer, football, whatever. What advice would you give younger athletes, like, trying out to be pros and stuff like that?
That's a great question. My advice would be that if it's something you truly love, I mean, find out what your calling is, find out what you're supposed to be doing. And sports are obviously great for developing and those, just the qualities of being on a team, and empathy, hard work, leadership, things like that. So finding what your calling is, finding what you love doing, that's obviously the biggest thing. And also, my probably one of my biggest things is finding good coaching staff. Honestly, whatever you're
Mhm.
doing in life, finding good mentors, a great coach is going to be your best thing you could ever do. The best, I'm trying to think of the right word is, but
Yeah.
this is going to be the best option for you, is finding the greatest coach, the greatest mentor you could possibly
Mhm.
have, to not only train, but also the psychological
Yeah.
aspect, right? Like we've been talking about a lot, the mental side, someone who's going to push you, someone who knows you, understands. That's what a true
Yeah.
leader does too, right? They understand each person on their team. They understand each person in their organization, and they can bring the best out of them. That's what a true leader, a true coach, or a mentor will do, is speed up that learning curve. And they'll also support you and push for you, and maybe pine for you out in the world as well, and do what they can to further you in that way as well. And that's kind of an ancillary thing, and I think that probably comes with a little bit with, if you find that person that has those other qualities, they'll probably do that second part for you as well, and talk you up, and help with your whatever it is, give you a good help you with your resume,
Yeah.
in essence, right? They'll help you with referrals, or people at upper levels come and say, hey, who is he, that guy or gal as a person? How are they? Stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's the kind of person you want in your corner. So I think that, to me, is the
Mhm.
biggest thing by far, is that mentor, a coach that you can really lean on, and that has the skills. If you can find someone who's been where you want to
Mhm.
go, that's not always the
Yeah.
case. And sometimes you also need to level up your coaches over time. Like you kind of need to do that in
Yeah.
business, right? You need to do that in sports and all these areas. And as you level up, you might need to level up your coaching as well, and who's working with you. But that, to me, I think is the biggest thing by far, because they're going to speed up your learning curve more than you could ever imagine. And that's where, whether it's even business, like I said, or learning about Bitcoin or sports, we have this world now where you can, again, just hop on
Mhm.
YouTube. You can find a lot of this knowledge and information. I mean, shoot, you can watch what is it called? Like with the lift and aerodynamics of an F-22 Raptor, or like an
Yeah.
MIT. I've watched it like multiple
Yeah.
times, right? Well, you couldn't do that
Right.
20 years ago, 30
Right.
years ago. Like that stuff, I want to be
Yeah.
a fighter pilot, right? So like that kind of stuff is so
Yeah.
fascinating to me. And Mrs. Smith down the street, God love her, she's not probably going to be the best math teacher on
Yeah.
earth. There's like, you might have hit the lottery and you have like some phenomenal teacher that lives right down the street from you, that goes, that went to your school and that was your teaching you growing up. But you have the greatest teachers in the world right in the palm of your hand. So you can go find the people there, and heck, you can even reach out to those people now on YouTube, on Twitter, or whatever it is, and try to be mentored by them, try to be coached by them if you want. So depending on how bad you want it is as far as you can take things. So mentors, coach, the biggest thing by far is how bad do you want it. For sure, I think those are some of the biggest keys to getting where you want to go, and then setting the right goals too, setting
Yeah.
your goals, and belief if you believe it, you can achieve it. I wholeheartedly believe that as well. And in resetting your goals, once you hit things, what is it you want, and reassessing. I think, again, those are some really timeless things that I think every athlete or a business builder or whatever it might be, content creator, has to kind of go through and ask themselves. And then let's see, the product that I wish I had. I love the Back to the Future movie, so I wish I had a hoverboard. I will say that randomly. I really wish I had that. I'm trying to think of like something else that I wish I would have had. What was, so hit me the question one more time.
What the second part of it was the advice for younger athletes, but the first question was if you could give your younger self advice, what would you tell yourself other than buying Bitcoin?
Oh, okay. It's funny because I like to goof around, I like to have fun, but I'm a pretty serious person on top of that. And it'd probably be to just have more fun, honestly. Like, you look back in life and it's, I'm always caught between, again, the seriousness and the gravity of life, and how important every second is, and nothing's ever given. You're not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to any second you have, none of it. And it can be taken from you in an instant, as we all know. And that is very humbling to me. So I have a hard time of letting my hair down at times, and just because that's always weighing on my conscience. And so it's, if I could go back, it would try to maybe just be, and I'll say this, and this is a good thing for athletes. This kind of ties into all this together. So when I was very young, like 5 to 15 years old, I was a captain of every hockey team growing up, and I was a big kid. I was really good, and I was a very good kid. Fortunately, I was very, very blessed to have good parents. I was a very good kid. So the coaching staffs looked at me as like, okay, the guy's got every tool. He's, 5-tool player in essence. He's a leader. He's a very good student in school. He's all these things. He's got everything. And so I was very blessed in that regard. And that's why I made the U.S. national team at 16 years old. And right at that time, though, is when, obviously, as a teenager, a young teen, you start, kids are really starting to do whatever. And I had a really hard time with that. I had a really hard time with kids just kind of doing whatever. And it was like, oh, shucks, they're just kids, or like kids will be kids. And I was always kind of like 20 years ahead of like my mindset. Was like the old soul, type of thing, where it was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I'm a kid, but like, that's dumb. Like that was kind of my mentality. And so I never understood, like, I was just always older than I should have been. And so it's not, I don't have any, like, there's no ill will, or I'm like, fighting, like, why am I like that? That's not what I'm saying. It's just trying to relax a little bit and understand that, like, hey, life's life, and God's got a plan at the end of the day, and what's going to happen is going to happen. There's only so much you can do, Brandon. You can't sit here and fight battles for God and try to make everyone find truth and first principles and natural law and like all these things, and put that beer down when you're 14 years old. Like, that's not like, no one grew up like you. That's not how life works. Like, you're like upside down, man. So in saying that, I was a captain of all these teams for 10 years growing up. And then when I became 15 years old, basically, I was never a captain again after that, except my senior year of Michigan State in college. I was assistant captain, but it was, I wasn't a leader, like, quite honestly, like, I tried to do what was right all the time. And like, I was a good person. I didn't always get it right, but I was doing what I was thinking was right, but I wasn't a teammate. I was more of a lone wolf. And so that's something that I think that is, I think Bitcoiners to a degree have a lot of that in them. And that's something where if Bitcoiners can really learn, I see that in a lot of people. It's why I probably found Bitcoin at an earlier time. It's why a lot of Bitcoiners probably find in the last 15 years have found Bitcoin, because you're probably a lone wolf. Like, it's lonely when you're off, doing your own thing and grinding and trying to find a better way and find truth and things like that. Because most of society isn't around you. They're not with you. They don't care. They're having a beer, like they, whether they're 14 or 44 or 84, right? Like, they just don't care. And so that, to me, has been the hardest thing to grapple with in life. And I grapple with it and understanding, like, hey, God, like, why did you make me this way? Like, I don't, again, not like it's not an animosity thing. It's just like questioning, like, trying to figure out myself and like where I'm supposed to be in life and how I'm best serving his kingdom, really. So that to me has been the biggest thing, and kind of trying to wrap all that up of like, what could I tell myself, and also maybe a younger person as well. And I'll leave with the last story of, there's a guy that started Remax, the huge real estate company, and he's I think he's a billionaire now or whatever, or I don't know if he is he might have sold it or whatever, but he's a billionaire or whatever. But he he was in the military, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. It was years ago I heard it, but it really struck me because this was really kind of me to a degree. And he was advancing in rank all the time and all the time. Then eventually, like one day, it just stopped. You know, he was like, "What do you mean?" Like he went into his commanding officer or whatever, and he's like, "Why am I not advancing? Like I always advance. Like I got all my stuff done. I'm doing this. I'm checking all the boxes. Blah 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 blah." And then the guy just looked at him and he was like, "No one knows you."
Oh.
And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "No one knows you." And he's like, "Okay, like I don't know what you mean." He's like, "When's the last time you came out with all the boys?" And it just like hit him. He was just like, I got like a wife and kids, and I'm going to school and I'm doing the military stuff. I'm doing all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, no one knows you. Like, and so you realize at some point that, again, humans are we have logic in us, and life itself is very logical in the sense of like gravity, right? Like first principles, that's a very logical thing, but humans themselves are very emotional. And that's the thing that I've just really kind of grappled to try to balance throughout my life, of balancing team, just empathy, being there for people, even if we're not getting better every second, it's okay. Like it's, like you can't do everything all the time. So anyway, that's it really struck me. It was a conversation that years ago I heard him talking about, and I was just like, wow. And then he started advancing, because then he was like, wow, yeah, I'm not a teammate. Like I just lone wolf it in essence. And then he went on, and I think he ranked up a few more times and just, became a better teammate, just not one of the boys, but like he just became a better teammate and just, whatever. And then he went on and built Remax and created a great organization because of really probably one of those big lessons that he learned in the military. Of that.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one, man. That's a lot to unpack there, man. Man, we have to do this again for sure at some point in the future, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you if they need you?
Yeah, so Brandon_Gentili, really all platforms, probably. I would imagine Twitter and YouTube for sure. You can find me there, message me there, DM me, comment on one of the videos, whatever, and find me there. I think Noster as well. It might be Brandon_Gentili. I'm trying to think. So yeah, I'm there. Hit me up. Love to be chatting with any of you, and thanks so much, for having me on. It's an honor to come on.
Thank you for being on, man. I appreciate it. All right, man.